Hello and welcome to the Beat Cancer Answer, brought to you by BeatCancer.Org, the Center for Advancement in Cancer Education. We believe that 90% of all cancers could be eliminated through environmental and lifestyle choices alone, and science agrees. Unfortunately, most people don't know it, so we provide the education that can help you prevent, cope with, and beat cancer through diet, lifestyle, and other immune-boosting approaches. On every podcast, we will feature an expert who can teach us how to become part of that 90% who could prevent getting diagnosed with cancer. If you already have cancer, we have empowering information for you too. Over the past 35 years, we have helped thousands of cancer patients get back into the driver's seat when it comes to their personal journey of healing cancer and preventing future reoccurrence. Listen now as BeatCancer.Org Educational Director Dr. Susan Silberstein interviews Dr. Helayne Waldman about what cancer survivors need most and how to access that support.
This is Susan Silberstein. It is my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Helayne Waldman, EDD and CNE. Dr. Waldman is an oncology nutrition expert, a certified nutrition educator, and a holistic health counselor specializing in providing nutrition support for women with breast cancer and survivorship plans for all who have been treated for cancer. Dr. Waldman received her doctorate degree from the University of San Francisco, her master's degree from the University of Albany, and her certificate in holistic nutrition from Bowman College. She has been teaching for over 25 years at the university level and is currently on the faculty of Hawthorn University and the University of Western States master's program in human nutrition and functional medicine. She is a board member of the Annie Appleseed Project. She serves on BeatCancer.Org's medical advisory panel, and she lectures for the cancer support community and at health conferences nationwide. Dr. Waldman is also co-author of the Amazon bestselling book, The Whole Food Guide for Breast Cancer Survivors, and co-founder of the online Renew Cancer Survivorship Coaching Program. She has a private practice in Oakland, California, where she sees clients in person and long distance via Skype. Welcome, Dr. Helayne.
Thank you so much, Susan. Such a pleasure to be here.
Well, I'm happy to have you here with me today. Oncology nutrition, is such an important area that is often neglected or inadequate for cancer patients. What got you involved in this field?
Well, it was very personal for me. I actually lost my dad to small cell lung cancer in 1994, and at that point I got very busy doing a lot of research. I was a lay person at that point, but I did a lot of research and did whatever I could to try and help ease his suffering. We did lose him, and I went on to have an aunt and a very dear friend develop different types of cancer as well about 10 years later, and worked very hard with both of them as well. And it turned out that while I was working with my aunt and my friend, I was in nutrition school. And I had to decide what I wanted to specialize in, and it just became very obvious to me that this was what I was meant to do with my nutrition education, so that's the way I went.
For sure. And, your story is not too unlike my own. Having lost my husband to cancer, spend a year researching and then decide I just don't want to bury with him all the research that I had uncovered. And so, those sacrifices are painful for us, certainly painful for those who suffer with the disease. But on the flip side, we're doing some good for others in their memory.
Yes, I certainly believe that as well.
Yes. Well, I mentioned your wonderful book, very valuable book about breast cancer. I highly recommend it to our listeners. And let's talk just a little bit more about the Whole Food Guide for Breast Cancer Survivors and what makes it so special.
Well, what I think makes it special is that it looks at every person as a unique biochemical individual. So there's a lot of cancer.
How do you address that in a book?
Well, we take a different approach. Instead of saying this is good for cancer, this is good for cancer, and this is good and here's why, we say, what are some of the risk factors for cancer or for cancer recurrence? And for example, we know that high levels of inflammation is a risk factor. So we have a chapter specifically on inflammation and why is that a risk factor? And how do you assess what your inflammation levels are? How do you know if that's a risk factor for you? And if it is, what do you do about it? So we have several chapters like that. We have one on digestive health. We have a chapter on endocrine health, nutrient deficiencies and excesses, blood sugar. These are all aspects of one's biochemical nature that either are protective or not protective or vulnerable, really, for each individual, and they're different for each individual. These are the areas that are potentially of risk. Now, here's how you can tell which of these areas you need to be concerned about, and here's what you can do about them.
I think that is really very, very valuable. And, of course, the book also contains meal plans and recipes and wonderful resources. So I want to remind our listeners that you can get a copy of this great book, The Whole Food Guide for Breast Cancer Survivors, right from the BeatCancer.Org e-store. And, of course, your purchase will help support the many patient counseling services that we provide at BeatCancer.Org. Now, Dr. Helayne, one of your key areas of focus is cancer survivorship. Let's talk about what that means and why we should be so concerned about it.
Well, when conventional treatment ends with cancer, survivors are left with all kinds of questions. How do I make sure this doesn't happen again? And how can I undo the damage that was done to me physically and psychically by my treatments? Will I ever feel normal again? I mean, these are the issues that survivors are grappling with, and nobody has really addressed those issues. What the medical community does address is they address surveillance and a certain degree of symptom mitigation. But nobody looks at recurrence prevention. Nobody looks at really, psychological recovery and recurrence.
Yes, and in fact, go ahead.
Well, I just feel that these issues are of critical importance. I mean, you've just come from a war, basically.
Yep. Yeah.
And there needs to be some kind of institutionalized or formal support for people, just like there are in other instances, in other medical conditions.
Absolutely. There are, I believe, close to 20 million Americans who have been through cancer and are still living, but they're not all living well. So surviving does not necessarily mean thriving. And there are side effects of treatment that can last long after the treatment has ended. I was just shocked when I read a study that was published in Cancer Epidemiology a few years ago that more than 3 million U.S. cancer survivors have below average physical quality of life, and more than 1 million have below average mental quality of life. And I mean, that's really serious. So, your concept of survivorship support is crucial. And not only that, but according even to the American Cancer Society, the recurrence rate for breast cancer, for example, is between 10 and 20%. For some cancers, the recurrence rate is higher. And in general, the National Cancer Institute tells us that those who've been treated for one particular cancer in the past have nearly 15% higher risk of developing a totally new cancer than the average person.
Right.
So, yeah. So what specifically are some of the most important things that a survivor needs to know?
Well, in a very general sense, the survivor, any survivor, needs to know that they're in charge, that they have tremendous power over what happens to them, and again, whether or not they are inviting cancer back or preventing it from coming back. And a lot of that is really up to them. I did want to mention, Susan, that just to be clear, that I did not come up with this definition or this this need for survivors to, have continuation of care. It was actually formalized in 2005 by the Institutes of Medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2015, the American Cancer Society and the American Society of Clinical Oncology published some very specific guidelines to help support cancer patients in survivorship. So there have been efforts to support cancer survivors. The problem has been, as I mentioned earlier, that they have really focused on surveillance for future cancer. And what we want to do is we want to focus on risk reduction and prevention. So back to your question, how do we do that? It's really quite similar to what we do in the book. We take a look at risk factors, although we start from the very beginning. We talk about hydration and physical activity and how important that is. We look at the consequences of treatment. And rather than just suffering with them, there are some natural steps that we can take to help mitigate some of those consequences of treatment. We look at basic dietary guidelines because you are what you eat. And we look at digestion because you are what you eat and absorb and assimilate.
Mm-hmm.
So without good working digestion, you're going to have a hard time nourishing yourself in a way that's going to be empowering. And this is really important to survivors because, as we know, chemotherapy in particular can really wreck the digestive system.
It certainly can. And in general, conventional treatments, even surgery, can do a number on the immune system. Of course, that's what you've got to help you prevent recurrence. So if you're not addressing that, then you are likely to be somebody who gets back into trouble. And you know what I found so interesting? Typically, if you go into the hospital, God forbid, with a heart attack, once you've been stabilized, the doctor sends you off with a whole set of instructions about how to stay out of trouble for the future. You've got to manage your stress, reduce your stress. You've got to exercise regularly. You've got to change your diet. But when a cancer patient is treated for cancer, even though the guidelines say that they should get this kind of help, typically doctors discharge the patients without discharge instructions. They don't give you a recommendation to change your diet and change your stress levels and do exercise. And basically what they say is, well, when you get back into trouble, we'll treat you again.
Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many of my own clients, when I've asked them, what did your doctor tell you when you were done with treatment? And they say, well, they told me, good luck.
Yep, good luck. And you know what? I've had patients whom I have coached who have completed treatment, and I say to them, you must be so relieved that treatment is over. No, now I'm terrified because now I have nothing to do. And I want to say to them, well, actually, you have everything to do, and it's all up to you.
Right, and that's the whole point of our program, is that there is so much that you can do, and if you're not sure what it is, this is the place to come and learn about what it is. We will let you know everything that you can do, and there is plenty.
Right, so let's talk specifically about the Renew Survivorship Program, and that is designed to empower all survivors, not just breast cancer survivors, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I really want to thank you for putting this training together, and I'm very honored that you've invited me to teach some of the modules with you. So what can the participants expect specifically from this program? What exactly is it going to cover?
Well, here's maybe my short list of the issues that I consider to be of critical concern to cancer survivors. And as I mentioned, these are the same issues that I talk about in the book. Their blood sugar and their insulin levels, their body mass index. Obese people have a much higher rate of recurrence than people with a normal body mass index. Inflammation control. How do you know? How do you keep those things under control? Dietarily, primarily, but also, believe it or not, taking a walk in the woods can help bring down inflammation levels and boost the immune system. So we talk about that. We talk about nutrient deficiencies. What did treatment actually do to your nutrient status? And the answer is it did plenty. And there's a lot of catch up. There's a lot of catch up that needs to happen. So we talk about what those deficiencies look like and how can we test for them. There's also a few nutrients that we don't want too much of. Copper and iron are two examples that come to mind. So we want to make sure that people are aware of avoiding foods and nutrients that are going to give them too much of certain nutrients. We also look at environmental toxicities. We look at your kitchen. We look at the pots that you're using and how you're storing your food, and whether you're buying organic or conventional, and the types of vegetables and fruits and animal products. We talk a little bit about genetically modified foods and the dangers of those, hormones, bone health, emotional energy. I mean, there's just a huge amount of stuff that we try and cover. And we do have 10 weeks, and that's why we have 10 weeks, because we feel that at the end of the 10 weeks, we really want people to feel like, okay, now I fully understand what I can do to take care of myself, and I feel empowered to do it. Because it's one thing to know it, and it's another thing to know it and to do it. And as an educator yourself, I know you understand that.
I do.
So we try and accomplish both, the knowing and the ability to put it into action.
Wonderful, wonderful. And this is a live online training, correct?
So this is actually a live training, and as far as I know, it's the only live training in the United States. There are other programs where you can pop online and do a self-paced type of program, which are good. Nothing against them, but with the live training, you have the additional advantage of being able to ask questions in real time, be able to have discussions with the other people on the line, and there's just a bit more energy and more excitement, really, to it, to be able to do it that way.
For sure. Now, when will the next training take place?
Well, we start on October 6th. That is a Thursday, and we run for 90 minutes. Each session runs for 90 minutes. Starts at 10 o'clock Pacific time. So that would be 10
So that
to
would
11.
Be 1 o'clock Eastern time.
That's right. Mm-hmm. And then we go for 10 weeks, which finishes us on December, that would be December 8th.
I think it's the 8th, right? And it's, I think just Thanksgiving week we're going to do a Tuesday, right? Because obviously Thursday is a holiday.
That's right, yeah. So we have 10 weeks to cover a lot of stuff, but we've done it before, and we'll do it again.
It's wonderful. I'm really thrilled to be part of this, Helayne. So obviously there's a cost, but I like to think of the cost as an investment in your health and in your future. So, and you offer some tiered pricing. You have an early bird price, and what is that?
The early bird price is $395.
And I think BeatCancer.Org subscribers will get a 10% discount on top of that.
That's right. 10%
Wonderful.
discount, BeatCancer.Org participants.
Right. I think Yes, and there's a code, and we'll tell you what the website is in just a moment, but the code for the 10% discount is BC10. And then when does that early bird discount expire?
That expires on the first day of autumn. That is September 21st.
Okay. So after that, there's full price minus the Beat Cancer discount, and that's what, $4.95?
Yeah, that's $4.95.
So you'll be saving close to $50 with the Beat Cancer discount.
If you register for the early bird and get the 10% discount, then it's really, quite a for what we're delivering. It's quite a nice price.
Absolutely. For what you're getting, for the intensity and the quality of the training, of course I have to say that because I'm one of the trainers, right? It's really a bargain. I can't even put a price on what people would have to pay to get that much information in an individual session. So how can people register for the course? What is the course website?
It is www.renewsurvivorshipcare.com.
Repeat that.
And I'll say it again. www.renewsurvivorshipcare, that's all one word, .com.
Mm-hmm.
And they can go to the site. They can read a little bit more about what we're doing, and then there is a place where you can register, and you'll be all set.
Well, that's terrific. October 6th is the first session. So before we end this interview, Dr. Helayne, is there anything else that you would like to add?
Well, I'd just like to tell you a little bit about what happened the first time we did this, which was last fall. And we did a pre and a post questionnaire, because we wanted the participants to rate themselves and see how far they had come over the 10 weeks. And for us, we also wanted to see, how we did and what kind of change we were able to enable in the participants. And what we found in the area of empowerment and self-efficacy, the participants rated themselves 300% higher at the program's end than at the start. So
wow.
That made us all really, really happy. And what it told me was that the goal of the program is empowerment and self-efficacy. What I want people to come away with is not that they memorize and they remember every single piece of content that we gave them, but that they get the idea that they have amazing amount of control, that they are empowered to really take the reins and go forward with preventing recurrence, that they're very powerful. So that's the main point.
It's a wonderful point. RenewSurvivorshipCare.com, a wonderful program that I am honored to be part of and that I think will absolutely change lives. Dr. Helayne, thank you so much for your time today. Congratulations on all the excellent work that you're doing. And going forward, I'm happy to be part of it.
Thank you, Susan, so much. And I'm delighted that you're going to be part of it as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Beat Cancer Answer. If you learned just one thing today about how to prevent, cope with, or beat cancer, then we have succeeded in our mission. For more information or assistance, visit our website at BeatCancer.Org. Remember to sign up for our educational email series and get your free gift. Join in the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, or Google+, where you can meet others who think just like you. We appreciate all of your feedback and love your suggestions. Please also remember to rate us on iTunes. Your positive ratings help us to get discovered so we can save more lives. Thank you again for listening, and best wishes for good health from all of us at BeatCancer.Org.